I knew it was a really special record just because I would perform it and people would come up to me afterwards and be like, that really resonated with me. I'm going through something similar. And it was, something I never really, I've always, connected through my lyrics, but to people coming up to me like crying and saying how much it affected them was so powerful. And
Hello, Elle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. I appreciate you doing this today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Cool. Well, this podcast is about you and your journey in the music industry, and we'll talk about the new song and the video and everything else you have going on.
Amazing. I can't wait. Let's dive in.
Cool. So you're born and raised in New York?
Born and raised in New York City, and I just moved to LA a year and a half ago now.
Wow, that's quite the change, New York to LA, I'd imagine.
It's definitely different, but I've been coming out to LA probably once or twice a month since I was 13 years old for music and acting, and to really be here and live here is just the quality of work. I think the way I can really, focus on the nuances of my music in a way that I don't have pressure on myself, because I would run home for school or whatever it was, and these 2-week trips, and there was so much pressure on them, and it's really amazing what can be done.
Just to kind of be there and in it.
Really, yeah, exactly.
That's incredible. Coming from, well, you said you'd go out here, or out to LA often enough, right? Every so often for music and everything. Was it always the goal to get to LA, or were you thinking of pursuing your career in New York? Because obviously New York has a huge entertainment industry as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had started with, Radio Disney and Disney Channel, and a lot of the work we did with that show was in LA. And then I ended up working with a manager who was based in LA. So a lot of the producers I'd work with were in LA at that time. And then I'd, come here on school breaks or weekends to develop my, my songwriting and everything. But I had done work in New York, during the year and stuff, but the people I'd work with in New York all started moving to LA, and it was like crazy to watch everyone just migrate.
Sure.
I actually had moved here right before the pandemic, and I was here for a week, this is March 2020, and then my Yeah No EP came out March 6th, so I came back to New York because I was doing some performances. This pandemic erupts, and I'm like, I'm not going to quarantine all alone in LA, and so.
Oh wow. Okay, so your Yeah No EP comes out. You said March 6th, so this is like a week-ish prior to the pandemic hitting, and then that happens, and oh my gosh. I want to talk to you about that, and how obviously that probably pulled the wind out of the sails quite a bit for a rollout plan, and everything else on that EP. But going back to New York, so you were actually born and raised in the city. You weren't like on the outskirts in the suburbs?
No, right in Manhattan. And
Wow.
I really attribute that to me getting my start in the industry because, New York, there's so much respect for the arts. And I grew up going to Broadway shows, taking my first, acting course was 7 years old. They had these amazing classes and just really encouraged, I feel, young people to get into the arts and consider that as a legitimate path, So I think New York was an amazing place to grow up, especially for what I do.
Do you come from a musical household at all?
No, no one in my family is musical, but
Oh,
they're
interesting.
supportive and very, very involved. My sister, we call her the unofficial A&R and manager at this point.
Okay. I think I was doing some research and I found a video of you from the Radio Disney days, and I think your sister's in it, like your neighbor, and you guys are running across the hallway into each other's houses and stuff.
That's an infamous video. My sister loves that video, but yeah, they did a hometown video where they went to our house and interviewed everyone who helped me.
That's cool. So that was actually the apartment you grew up in?
Yeah. So I was in New York, and all those people are still in my life from that
That's
video.
cool. I mean, see, I grew up in San Diego and, in the suburbs. I can't imagine just you can open your door and your neighbor is right there, and to have somebody, it looks like the same age or similar age as you, it's right across the hall. That has to be so cool.
We met through the windows, we faced a courtyard, and her apartment also faced a courtyard. We like put up signs. It was like, "You belong with me," like the Taylor Swift thing. I was like, "Can you knock on my door?" And then we became best friends. She's still my best friend to this day. It's amazing.
When were like, how old are you guys when you met?
4 years old is when we moved into that building.
Oh, wow. That's so crazy. And then to have that friendship for this long, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really special. And New York's amazing because it's like, even though it's such a big city, it feels very intimate. Like I walk down the street and I see so many people I know. It's a great place like that.
Mhm. And with your music and singing and all that, how, like when did you start singing or when did you get into that or find a passion for it?
Always been singing. Like I was that kid at family events, just making everyone listen to them. And I remember I would do like karaoke with my dad when I was like 3, 4 years old. You know, my mom says I started singing before I started talking. And I took an acting course in New York when I was around 7 years old. And at that acting class, they'd have a showcase at the end of the semester, and they'd invite agents and managers. And that's how I kind of got my start because a manager found me, and then I started just doing work around New York. So
Oh, okay. Did it start with commercial acting work or was it in always singing?
a Golden Corral commercial was my first gig.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of how it all got started.
You're in the commercial or
The commercial, yeah. I
that's
remember
funny.
it was very fun. I left grade and did my little commercial.
Wow. Okay. And I saw, I think it was in that same video, maybe the hometown one, where it's you and your neighbor, your best friend, and you're doing like videos, like YouTube videos way back when.
Yeah, we would do these really fun videos. We were crazy girls. We just like had very creative, crazy ideas, and we'd go on the street and film music videos for my songs I had written at like 9 years old and do it on iMovie.
Oh,
So
wow. Did you have like a YouTube channel back then for the two of you, or was it just for you
just
guys
for
and your?
I think we just like tormented our friends and families and made them watch all of our videos. It was not,
That's amazing. Do you still
but
have? I would imagine you had to still have some of that.
I started working with this musical director. I basically called him my music dad, and we met at 9 years when I was 9 years old, and he lived, right near me, and he basically like taught me how to record and took me to my first studio when I was 9 years old, and I had all this music, so me and my friend, we'd film these music videos for it like on the street, and I'd give them
Wow.
to everyone at my school, and I'd burn CDs and then hand them out to the people in middle school, and
And
yeah,
those were original songs.
original songs, yes.
Wow, that takes a lot of courage, especially at that age, to not only show somebody your singing voice, but to present them with something that you had written. I mean, have you always just kind of that didn't phase you as much, or tell me about that?
I really, it was such an outlet for me to write music and tell my stories, and I loved sharing it with people, and it was a form of connection for me, especially at a young age. I really like made so many great friends in school from just like I would hand out my CDs to people I didn't know, and we would form a connection, and then I've now seen that as I've been doing this at a different level, and I see
Mhm.
that another scale, so it's
Sure.
the same thing really.
And how do you get in? Was Radio Disney kind of the first big thing for you in your music career?
Yeah, so I've been doing this, work in and around New York, and I perform like the bitter end and do a lot of different shows. And I was like 9, 10, 11, or
Oh,
whatever.
so you're playing venues and like
Yeah,
at that age. Whoa, wait, what?
like
Okay, so
slept in
when?
venues. I was like 10 years old performing at like the Red Lion, the bitter end.
Wow. And were you doing original songs?
Yeah, I was doing my original songs. We had New York City Girl. I had a song called Poser.
That's a solid name for nine.
It's like going down memory lane. I usually don't even think about these records, but yeah, and then I auditioned with Disney when I was 13, and that program really catapulted my career, and it was amazing. And they really, what was so special about it is they showcased original music, and we went on tour with our songs, and that was really special to see like firsthand how my music could connect me with other people.
Well, it sounds like you have a supportive, family and household there to bring you to the bitter end to play a show at 9 or whatever, or to kind of embrace this arts and music and passion that you had. was that like must have been really nice to have in
Yeah,
your
no,
life, I would think, right?
like even now, my sister, she like still stay up all night after her work and help me with my videos. And they've my mother and my sister have made, and my whole family, but really them too, sacrificed so much to be there for me and support me. And they're like in it as much as I am. It's amazing.
And how do you land the Radio Disney thing, or it was like next big thing, right? Or I think it was that's what it's called. Was it like like a talent show, or I don't
Yeah,
even, to be honest, I don't really remember it, like
yeah.
on TV or something.
So I had auditioned with Disney, and it wasn't for anything in particular. We had a meeting and whatnot, and then that program really made sense for me because I had performed, my original music for them, and they had this program where her was on the season before me, and they basically just showcased from
Really? Like back way back then?
yeah, yeah,
Whoa, okay, that's crazy.
season with me for my season, and they would showcase artists and their original music. We went on a national tour, and it was just a really great fit for me at the time. And then what was so special is Radio Disney was a huge champion of me and my music up till I think they closed in 2019, but they
Hmm.
premiered, yeah, no, even my, that
Yeah.
project. Till they closed, I'd go perform at Disney World, and it was amazing. So I was very lucky to have their support all these years. I'm so sad they shut down.
I know it's crazy that they did. To think, it didn't make sense to me just because it's Disney and that still was a relevant outlet for music even up until 2019 when they stopped. But
I just so
um,
the values they uphold and the messaging they send out for younger people, I think is so important. So I'm so sad.
mhm,
Hopefully
yeah,
there's a platform like that.
sure. So with doing these big doing the tour for Radio Disney and all that, was that something was that also came natural to you? Were you nervous at all playing in these big shows, going from the bitter end to now you're playing on this massive tour with Disney?
I mean, I was so excited, and it was something I'd always dreamt of. I mean, I feel like so many young people are like me, my friends would be like, "Oh, I'm blah blah blah," and you're watching whatever the Disney Channel and you're on. Like I'd always dreamt of that, so it just felt so like right. Like I was so excited and just embraced the opportunity.
Hmm. And so you did that. What were you going to school and doing that at the same time? Were you kind of juggling both, or were you doing homeschool?
Still in school, and then I ended up going to high school as well and college, and always balancing both. And it really, that program really taught me how to do that because I had to learn how to prioritize my time, and you know learn, I had to make certain sacrifices in order to be able to do this, and also still maintain my education, which is very important to me even to this day.
Hmm.
So
Like going to high school and being in commercials and having this, like, you have like this name for yourself. Was that weird? Like, did people treat you weird or differently, or did you not feel that at all?
I mean, I didn't really notice it. I actually found my teachers were really supportive. I remember I had done my first film my sophomore year of high school, and I was like telling my math teacher that I had to miss a few days to film, and he was so excited about it. Like they were really just supportive of me, and I really appreciated that.
But even your classmates as well?
My classmates too. Yeah, they were supportive. Everyone was excited and really really nice to me about things.
Was that like even in the days of like Instagram and all that, was that happening at that time too? So you probably had this huge following on there. I mean, obviously you still do. So it's like
Yeah.
I've just interesting because I've chatted with other artists that have a massive social media followings and they were still in high school, and then like just getting that whole like, oh, like tag me in the put, like I can imagine that like hierarchy of the school could get kind of dicey with social media, because
Yeah.
I'm old and that wasn't a thing when I was there, so thank God.
I definitely kept my like social media presence very separate from like my personal life. Like I wouldn't
Okay.
post of things going on at school, and I think I probably should have, because it was a huge part of my life, and that was my like personal, like I write about my experiences in my personal life, so I should obviously share those, but I'd always like deliberately kept it separate because I just thought that was,
Where
better.
there wasn't any like jealousy there from kids, like, oh, you have X amount of followers, and I don't know.
I never really mind, like, nothing really they didn't really bother me. But
Okay, that's
people
good.
were saying things, I didn't really listen. I was like, I'm living my life, I'm living my dreams. Like, I don't care. Like,
That's a great attitude. That's cool. That's cool that it didn't bother you at all. I mean, that's just like I said. Just because I've heard other stories of people being like, "Oh yeah, it was like weird," because then everyone. The best one I heard, it wasn't the best, but it was just somebody told me that was on. I think it was a Nickelodeon show or Disney show. When she went back to school, it was like somebody asked her to the prom, and he's like, "But you can. I only go." He asks her and goes, "But I will only go with you if you take a picture with me and then post it on your feed and then like tag me in the picture." I was just like,
God.
there's like this ultimatum to go with this dude, and it's like she has the following, man. Like what?
Wow, that's so sad. Wow.
Yeah, I
I
was
didn't know what happened with that story. Did she go to prom with him?
no, she didn't.
Okay, good, good.
But I just thought it was funny because you hear just because, like I said, I'm older, so like growing up in that age wasn't a thing. It wasn't, but I could imagine just the kids I went to high school with and stuff like just having that kind of like jealousy or that like little hierarchy of like, oh, well, so and so has this many followers. Like, I don't know. It's just all a popularity contest when it comes down to it, at least in high school.
Yeah, no, it's definitely tough, but I've just been lucky to have such a strong support system with my
That's incredible.
family.
Yeah,
So happy doing what I'm doing that I don't really let the negativity or whatever people would say get to me because
that's a
I'm
great outlook.
doing well.
Um, and then you ended up going to school on the East Coast as well, right? Were you going to college for music or something totally different?
No, I went to UPenn studying communication, cinema, and they're so supportive of me and my career. They even let me continue my education here and take classes in LA online, which is incredible. So I was on campus for a year and a half, and now I'm doing it from LA.
Okay. So you put out, well, tell me about writing or what was the first song aside from what you were doing? Like, what would you say, like, the first Elle Winter song was that came out and you're like, okay, this is me and this is my project and this is what it's going to look like moving forward?
Yeah, so we rolled out. So basically, in 2018, I released a couple songs independently that picked up some traction. Elvis Duran chose me as Artist of the Month, after the
Hmm.
release. And then I had signed with Sony Red, and we started rolling out my Yeah No EP, which I had been developing, right after I graduated high school during that year and a half, or a few years actually. And we started rolling that out in 2019. So that project was really my debut, and I was so proud of it, and had really just like poured my whole heart into it. And then we released it like right before COVID, but yeah, crazy timing. But it still was really incredible to watch how it connected me to so many people around the world and fans I still have to this day. Like from Brazil and all these amazing places, and it was so powerful. Literally just marketing it from my basement.
Yeah. So you have, obviously, was Yeah No already happening? Like, was it already gaining traction online before the song, before the EP came out?
I had been performing it before it was released, and I knew it was a really special record just because I would perform it and people would come up to me afterwards and be like, that really resonated with me. I'm going through something similar. And it was, something I never really I've always, connected through my lyrics, but to people coming up to me like crying and saying how much it affected them was so powerful. And I was like, I just can't wait to release this record. And it was really the focus track of the EP. And once we released it, it did connect like that, and it was really special to see. And I'm lucky that I was able to perform it for a couple years because I ended up releasing it during COVID, so a lot of the
Mhm.
touring and stuff we'd planned didn't come to be.
Right, right. Was there like a moment for it that, like, what really started the kind of snowball of the song? Because I mean, it has 8+ million streams on Spotify. Like, was there something that, or was there a viral video or something that you did, or something that had happened, or was it just kind of like it just started building and building and building?
Yeah, I think since I had started rolling out the EP with like my first single was Sick of You, and then we did
Mhm.
another one, and I think it was like just leading up to that, a little gaining momentum and kind of getting my footing back into, releasing music after just I'd been developing this project. So Yeah No came out, and then it just started picking up steam like organically on Instagram, Spotify, whatever it was. And then Apple really championed the record as well, putting it on some amazing playlists. There was a dance remix that ended up getting featured on BPM radio. So just
Oh,
a lot
wow.
started, you know, grabbing that, with that song.
That's cool. I mean, that must have been exciting to see that, especially after all the hard work you put into it. And then it's like, okay, the EP's out. And then next week, everyone's got to stay inside.
Crazy. We had some really fun shows planned and everything, and just had to like shift gears. But it was really amazing, especially in a time that was so isolating, to be able
Mhm.
to have a song that connected me with so many people. It was really special, like especially during that moment in.
Yeah. Like, I mean, at least, so you went back, you put the EP out, and then you went back to New York, and then that's when COVID happens. So
So
you just stay there for what?
I
Like,
was
tell me about that.
so I was performing Yeah No on Good Day New York, and I was coming back, and then everyone, I remember at Good Day New York, people were talking about COVID and this like mysterious thing, and I was like, oh no, like maybe I'll just stay in New York for like another week and see how things play out, or like 2 weeks, because people say it's a 2 week
Yeah, flatten the
virus
curve.
or whatever. And then it just kept extending, and I ended up like virtually moving out of my apartment in LA because I had nothing with me, because everything was set up in LA for me. And I didn't want to be in LA and alone, quarantined, so I ended up
Right.
spending a lot of time with family. My family got a dog right before, like right when I moved to LA. So I wasn't gonna get to know this dog, but then during COVID, I got so close to the animal. Oh my God, I love this dog so much. And
That's
now,
amazing.
now
We
we're
got a dog like the first month of COVID. Like COVID happened, and then we got it. I have two boys, and we're like, oh, let's get it. We decided to get this dog, and instead of when you adopt a pet, it's usually like this whole process of like, okay, they're gonna bring them to your house, and then see
yeah,
if they get to know you, and you got to go there. And this, it was literally this lady pulls up in a van, and the dog gets out, and everyone's like 20 feet apart, and then my kids run up to the dog, and they're playing with the dog, and my wife's like, so do we just write you a check? And the lady's like, you want him? We're like, yeah. She's like,
where,
okay. And then that was the end of it.
where did you find this woman?
It was on like this dog app. It was like a it was like a legit thing. I mean, it wasn't like some sketchy lady. It was like off this, like, my son calls it like Dinder, like dog Tinder, because it was like you
Amazing.
have there's like these dogs, and you can just kind of swipe through and like save some, and like you message the person on there and be like, hey. But it was all done like, it's hard to explain. Like there was like a legit company, because if you bought it through them, then like they had a deal with like Unleashed, the Petco kind of spin-off thing. But it was just bizarre because, but they might have just been like, okay, this is like a family, and there's a little kid. They're not going to just, I don't know, take it was, they just vetted us right away. They're like, yeah, sure, you can have the dog.
That's crazy. That's amazing. What type of dog is it?
He's like a terrier. They think he's like a Chihuahua terrier mix, or a Schnauzer terrier. He's small. I mean, he's like this big. But it was just interesting that they were like, yeah, go ahead and take him. But it
So
was just like COVID. Obviously, they didn't want to like even mess around with it.
yeah, I feel like everyone got a dog during COVID.
Right. It was like this trend. But
Antisocial because they're not used to mingling with other dogs. Like my dog gets scared of other dogs now because
oh
she's
yeah, it's interesting to think
like
about.
isolated with us. It's very weird.
Yeah, my dog's super clingy. Maybe
Yeah,
that's why, because he's just
my
used
dog
to it.
will jump up if we're sitting on a chair. Like she'll sit on the chair with you. Like if there's a little space, like
Oh
between.
yeah, that's how he is. He's got to be like attached to somebody at all times. It's bizarre.
Oh,
Well, okay, so you put the record out. It's doing well, but you're in New York now.
yes,
And
yeah.
so how long are you in New York before you move back to LA? Or is this back move to LA pretty recent again?
Yeah, so I waited to get vaccinated to move to LA. So this is like April 2021. So
Okay.
over a year. And I released a single during COVID. I was writing a lot during COVID, and there's a lot of self-reflection, and that really fueled this next project because I just, all the time, just to myself, I
Mhm.
I really like actually grew as a person and was able to reflect on a lot of things in my life. And it was really good to come to LA with like all that in my pocket, ready to
Mhm.
write about.
So you had those songs written, you just hadn't recorded them yet when you got back to LA?
Just some, I mean, I had actually worked on a lot of music during COVID, but I had just concepts and journaling and just different things I had been, you know, thinking about
Hmm.
during the pandemic. And, coming into the studio with those kind of reflections was very helpful for the next project.
So Sad Girl Heaven was the first one you put out after during COVID, or
During COVID, yeah, during that.
okay.
Yeah.
So you put that one, and will that be on the project? I mean, I want to hear about the project because obviously you have Help that was just came out. I want to talk to you about that song.
Yeah.
Um,
Staggle Heaven's not a part of the project, but
okay. So you put
it's
that one out, then you put out Candy also, right? But that was what, a few months later, or how?
was, yeah, about a few months later, like during the summer,
Hmm.
and I had just moved to LA at that time, and that was from some of the music I'd been working on during COVID. But once I got here, I really wanted to write about a lot of the stuff I'd been thinking about during the pandemic, and really, continuing the messaging of Yeah No, which was super empowering, yet vulnerable, and telling my stories in a really honest and open way. So I wanted to figure out a way to do that, but also evolve from that. And I linked up with a producer I'd known since I was actually 14 when I would come to LA, but we never really,
Whoa.
our schedules never aligned and we never had worked together, but we reconnected. And then he brought in his collaborator, who's an amazing producer and songwriter, Autumn Rowe. And we just,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
So you worked with Autumn. Okay. I've interviewed her before. She's a great person. Yeah.
she's incredible. Yeah, she's an amazing woman. Everything she does
She
is
wrote a lot of that John Batiste record, that the one that just won the Grammy, the album of the year Grammy, right?
her and Kizzo developed that project, and then they, started working with me as well, and fleshing out this project with me, and it's been amazing.
Oh wow. Okay, so you meet with her, and was the first song you guys wrote together this new one, or was it Help, or were there other songs that kind of came out of that also, or?
Or yeah, my whole project came out of those sessions, and Help wasn't the first one we did together, but it was earlier on. But they really spent so much time. We spent so much time in the studio and out of the studio, just getting to know each other, and that really helped me bring about some of my most honest and authentic work. You
Mhm.
know, that just time together is really important.
Sure. Well, what was it like writing? I mean, writing with her was like, tell me about the process. You get there. Do you know that she's got all these credits to her name, and she's got all these, she's done these big things? Was that worrisome at all, or were you just like, okay, I'm gonna meet this person, we're gonna write some cool songs, or?
Well, I got in with Kizzo and we were listening to some of the music I'd done and just jamming together. And we really had like similar, visions for this next project, and just like so clicked. And he's worked with, he was working with Autumn on John's project, and they're so close. And he's like, she needs to get in on this project. And I'd heard of Autumn and loved her work. And I was so excited to just delve into this, and it just felt like so right and just made so much sense, like at the right timing. And it's like right when I moved to LA, and it was a whole new chapter for me. And it was just so great working with her, and she's such an inspiring and empowered woman that I felt like she really helped me bring out a lot of my ideas and similar messaging to what I had wanted to say, especially I had done in Yeah No. So just like taking it one step further. It was
Mhm.
super great to work with her on that.
That's awesome. And tell me about Help. So that's the new, is that the first song from the project?
Yeah, so Help is the first one we released from the project. It's one of my favorites. I wrote it because it was this new chapter, and I had realized just growing up in the industry, I'd put so much pressure on myself to be this perfect person and always have it all together. And I didn't feel like I could ever admit that I could be struggling or whatever it was. And then once I came here, I started a new relationship. I started this new project. I was living in a new city. I was like, I can really decide how I want to live my life now. I can either, cater to everyone else's needs like I have been doing and not putting myself first, or I can change that and make this a whole new chapter for me, and just accept that asking for help and admitting that you're going through it is actually a strength. It's not a weakness.
Hmm. I love that. And did you like, what about the music video? Tell me about putting that together.
Yes, I worked with this amazing creative director named Nikki Parks, and she found this incredible house in Palm Springs that's super retro and like really captured a lot of the ideas I had for the project, especially aesthetically and stuff. It was designed by Danny Daisy, and she's like an incredible designer, and she does super cool like '60s stuff in Palm Springs, especially. So we found
Hmm.
this awesome house, and I really loved, how it shows me, facing myself as like these. It's actually very similar to Taylor. It's so funny. Taylor Swift next week releases her anti-hero video,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
her facing herself and like her being her harshest critic, and
Right.
that's really the messaging of my song as well, that I inflict this pressure on myself, and then I escape the house and I'm trapped in at the end, and I'm free of my own pressure.
I love it. I love it. Well, tell me about the project then. It's another EP, or is it going to be a full album, or?
It's another EP, and
Okay.
really draws on a lot of the music I grew up listening to, and it's super empowering, uplifting, lots of organic instruments and harmonies, and I'm really, really happy with it and excited to get it out.
With does help kind of set the tone for the record? Is that one not sounding much like the rest of the songs on the EP? And why'd you decide to go with that one first?
Yeah, I think it definitely sets the tone for it, and especially it's a very vulnerable and honest song, but also
Hmm.
finding strength in that vulnerability. So I felt like it was a really great way to set the tone for the project, because it's just me telling my own stories in an empowering, uplifting way. So I think
Hmm.
it really does that.
Do you have like a timeline for the EP or not yet?
We're gonna release another single very, very soon, like very, like wow, quite soon. And then I have a Christmas song coming, and then another song coming, and then the whole EP. We're doing a nice little rollout, so I'm excited about it.
Oh, awesome. So you have a Christmas song, but that was last year, right? With
Yes.
yeah, so you're doing another is it what can you tell me what Christmas song it is? Or are you holding on?
I'm re-releasing the Christmas Baby Please Come
Oh,
Home.
okay.
I'm gonna use that.
Very cool. And then you have another single coming out, and you said very soon.
Yes, very,
Is
very
there
soon.
is there a video and everything to go with this one as well?
We do have some fun visuals for this one, so I'm excited about it.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see it. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for doing this, Elle.
It was so fun. I also loved like walking down memory lane.
Well, I just have one more quick question for you, and I'll let you get back to your life. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I would say, I think it's really hard that I feel like there's so many curveballs thrown at artists, especially today. And I just think you need to be consistent and just keep working hard and not get discouraged. And if you persevere and be consistent and just keep showing up, good things will happen, Don't give up, essentially. But I just think consistency is very, very important.